Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in to this webinar. My name is Kim Searle, Emotional Mastery. And today I'm interviewing Christopher Jackson, or Chris, as I'm going to call him through this because I'm lazy. I've known Chris for some time now, and I've been really impressed with the way he works with people, how he treats his clients and the people he meets in the networking circuit. And as those of you who've watched other videos, you know I'm all about raising the vibration of the planet, i.e. lifting people so that they can feel better about who they are and what they are. Chris does that with his business. So welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me today. How are you?
Hello, Kim. Thanks for inviting me. And, it's great to be here. And hopefully we'll be able to inspire some people as we move forward. And I think it's fantastic what you do. So this is going to complement that fantastically, all being well.
Yes, thank you. So I thought we'd start off with, can you just tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
So back in 2011, I started Let Me Drive You. Let Me Drive You is a chauffeur business. I look after celebs, I look after Joe Public, diplomats, all varieties of people. And we drive them to the airports, functions, weddings, pretty much anywhere and anything. But how it all come about, really, Let Me Drive You, was I was very disgruntled in my job. There were lots of changes over 12 years. I knew it was time to get out of that job because the changes coming in were sort of like unaskable of you. And the longer, and I'm sure you've got many clients that you will talk with about this, the longer you feel trapped in a job, in a situation, the more it causes anxiety, leading to depressions. And then, it breaks down, obviously a nervous breakdown, possibly.
Yeah.
So what I did, before I left my job of 12 years, which, was time to come, I started off Let Me Drive You alongside it. So,
wow.
I took long days, 18 hours, sometimes 20-hour days, where I was posting flyers to get the work and doing that alongside my full-time job of 42 hours a week. And I did this for almost a year. How I did it, looking back, I don't really know.
I was going to say, that's quite incredible, isn't it? And I know people who've done it, worked a part-time business alongside a full-time one. So,
but it's something that, if you want something bad enough, you've got to really be that person to get it yourself. No one's going to give you anything in life, and a lot of people are expectant on that. So what I did, I got a load of leaflets, a lot of flyers together. And I knew before I started the kind of people I wanted to work alongside with, trustworthy people, that sort of thing. So I had, there's no such thing, people will write up a business model and they say, you haven't got to draw up a business model. You just got to know what you want and what you don't want. So what I did flyers through doors. I did very local advertising to get people in the car. So I was literally driving people to airports and then going into my job, and then picking up someone in the evening, going to sleep and doing it all over again. And what Let Me Drive You represented was, I never knew. I knew one day I always wanted to work for myself, but I never knew what. And my nan and granddad brought me up with some old school morals and values. And what I wanted to do was bring that out in my business, which I'll talk about later. But the fact that it was driving, I think, represents that my granddad was a haulage driver for cattle. He worked on the farm moving sheep, pigs, horses. So I knew I wanted to do driving. And I got talking with a guy in London that had his own chauffeur business, sole trader, nothing big, but he was looking after celebs for their studios, that sort of thing. And he said to me, there's no reason why you can't do what I'm doing, and look at what's going on in your local area. So maybe book some of these people yourself and see what you're getting with the money. So I did that, and I just literally took that model and made it better. And lots of people say, it's no point in doing that because someone's already doing it, and that's fine. But if you take that model, if you take that idea and just make it better and tailor it to yourself of what you think you are as a person, you will succeed.
I think you're right there. I mean, there's, for me, there's a lot of hypnotherapists out there. There's lots of NLP practitioners and, coaches and counselors. And I really struggled with that for myself, what made me unique. But it's me. It's what I bring to the table.
Exactly
I
that.
interpret the training. So I can see where you're coming from, that you're the unique factor in your business and how you want to run it. And I love that idea, that you're bringing your take to it. So how does that look in your business? What is it about your business that's different?
But basically, Kim, it's one of those things where, as I said, you find the sort of image you want to create. So mine trades on trust, care, respect, and the actual model of it, there's two a penny of what I do. You could Google taxi, private hire, chauffeur, and you have a vast array. But I always knew I wanted to work with sort of high-end, not luxurious, but, a brand or a company that give an image of, something different. So I got talking with a couple of brands. All my suits come from Geeves and Hawkes. And I said to them, if one of my clients wanted to buy a branded suit from you, could we work together where maybe they could get a tour and watch their suit being tailored, that sort of thing? And it brought a whole new ball game, because I decided then I wanted to look at other brands that might be representing and complementing what I do. And of course, I got involved with Hilden Water, who supply me in glass, not plastic bottles. So that was a great no-brainer, because everyone was getting in the car saying, oh, it's nice to see you haven't got plastic in your car, because a couple of years ago, everything went, oh, you can't have plastic bottles, that sort of thing. So I brought that in as soon as I could, and I've never looked back on that. But you've got to be different, and you've got to work out what it is you want to represent. And, I'm not expensive. I always test the market to see what everyone else is doing. And I'm somewhere in the middle, I'm not cheap, but I'm not expensive. If you do things too cheap, then two things are going to happen. A, you either go bust because you can't sustain your costs to survive, or B, people are going to latch on to you for being cheap, and they're just going to take from you all the time. So you've got to find a balance. You've got to find a balance there.
Yeah, and I think that's very fair to say. So it's interesting because you said about the Hilden Water and how you've gone that.
Got to give them a little plug along the way, yeah.
But it's interesting because what you did was pivot according to what society was talking about, and obviously being green and not using so much plastic. You changed your business really quickly to reflect that. How awesome! So, how are you coping in today's environment where, unfortunately, at the time of recording, we're all in lockdown and you're not allowed to go out? How are you pivoting your business ready for when we come back out?
It's quite shocking, isn't it, what's going on, and sad. And I think a lot of people now are looking at their business. Those that haven't started a business might actually be getting closer to starting a business because they might not have a job to go back to. And so I'm talking with a lot of people like that because they want to know my journey. Everyone likes a story. So if you can share your journey, then I think that's great to help other people. But what I've been doing from the business point of view of Let Me Drive You is reaching out to a lot of other people that do what I do, in the sense of finding subcontractors, because when I'm busy, I'm always short of drivers. But because it's such a tight industry, you get a lot of drivers that will try and take your clients. So I've always had a form that they sign, that they can't just, hand out business cards for their own. And none of them do. It took me a long time. I would say it took me at least 4 years to get the right people involved. So that's pretty much half of my 9 years just sourcing the right drivers. So what I'm doing now, I'm reaching out to people, like-minded people. I'm also doing some online work to try and inspire other people, giving some hints and tips, because it doesn't matter, who you are in business or where you are on your personal journey, you will always add value, because it's always great to listen to other people. And I always say it's the ones that goes to the end. So whoever's watching this, the people that will watch this from start to finish, from you, from me, from us, will get the most from it.
Yeah. And I know that only recently you had some time that you gave to me when I was struggling at the beginning of the year as to what I was doing and where it was going, and actually I'm a lot clearer on that, and you were a big contributor to that process. So do you do much mentoring or
I've done it for about 2 or 3 years, and coming into 3 years now. I started in August 2017-18. And what it come about where I had realised that I'd been to lots of events, lots of seminars, and I always say to people, take a notepad, jot everything down, because there'd be stuff in there that's of absolutely no value to you, but there might be stuff, there's always something somewhere that is value to you.
I usually find something in Star Trek that's of value. Jean-Luc Picard is mine. He comes out with some real corkers. His sidetracking slightly, but his latest one, which is just Picard, he said the past is already written.
Exactly.
Hours. Hello. What more? Philosophical. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. You can pick up value all over the place, can't you? So.
And always, and you know, I never had a coach or a mentor. If I'd have known someone like yourself when I started out, you know, a few sessions would have been enough to sort of push you into the right direction and save lots of mistakes. But I always say to people as well, if you haven't had a coach or mentor, you've made some bad decisions, you've made some mistakes. And along that journey, you've then learned the hard way, many people do, and then you can share how you found your way through that, which of course saves other people making that mistake. So a coach or a mentor like yourself is definitely of value. And you might need 10 sessions, you might need a year, you might be able to dip in once a year. But as long as you keep touching base with people that know their journey, and, you know, I think there's so many people out there that have never run a business, but they will talk about business. So, you know, what experience have they got? And it's such an open market now for people selling all sorts of products through that. You've got to choose wisely and you've got to get to the right people. So I hope people will watch this, of course, and you know, recognize what you do. But yeah, I started out a few years ago. My course, which I'm about to launch again, is called Driven, which will complement my book called Driven. And Driven's going to be pretty much about my journey. And, you know, I come from a background with Nan and Gran had brought me up. My mum was around, but she wasn't, if you know what I mean. And no brothers or sisters. And hard work has been the key to my success, and just doing what you say you're going to do, delivering for your clients, delivering for your customers. And if anyone takes a program with me, you know, it's not very expensive, but it's not cheap. And what you get from that, we don't do a continuation of sessions week by week. They're one-offs. And then we reach out and we say, did you implement it? Which I said to you, I gave you some advice beginning of the week. And if they say, well, I've done some of it, I say, well, why haven't you done all of it? You know, if you tell someone, one of your clients, what they need to do, and you touch base with them and you say, did you do what I told you to do? And they say no, then you've got to find out, A, why they haven't found that motivation to do it. And B, they can't expect a result from your skill if they've not done it. So it's implementation. And if you're going to deliver something, ask yourself this: would I do it myself? Yeah. Would I take that advice and do it myself?
So you've actually got a program that you work then on this drive, and that you deliver with people. Is that right? Driven,
yeah. So
Driven, sorry.
No, it's pretty much business, but you know, I always leave the personal stuff to the experts. They've studied it. They know how they can get the brain working, positive, negative, whatever the problems are. But when it comes down to real life, running a business, selling a product, wherever stage you are, or even if you're starting out, I always like to take on people that have got an idea and they just like, oh, I'm a bit frightened to give my job up or whatever. You know, the bottom line is you've got to give that job up. You can't do everything. You can't be what is it they say? Master of none, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes.
But you can dip into things along that journey and get experience. And I think it's fair to say, by the time you get to my age, I'm not old, but I'm not young. You've had a lot of experience in different jobs.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, you've been in business for a while now, so you'll have seen various things come and go. Because that was one
Yeah.
of the things that I noticed, you know, over time. Because I was part of a business years ago, many years ago, but there are cycles around businesses as well, but within your business and around your business. So, you know, let's just use the financial one. You know, we had a crash in 2008. We're heading for something similar this time. Who knows what?
Yeah.
Can't tell the future, so you'll see those sorts of cycles as well, won't you? So tell me more about your book. What book's this? What's this book?
So the book's going to be called Driven, and I thought, you know, I've been putting it on and off for so long now, probably about 4 years, and I thought, well, there's no excuse now. I've got a bit of time. Let's get some pen to paper. And I already had in my mind what it looked like, but of course you forget things if you don't write them down. So I always say to people, write them down, otherwise they've gone. So I always keep a pad next to my bed of thoughts. If I wake up in the night and I jot some bits and bobs in that pad, which is another great technique, no matter what it is, always keep a pen and paper next to your bed, because if you wake up in the middle of the night, your brain might have some great ideas.
Yes, it
So what
always does in the middle of the night, which is not helpful, is it, really?
bizarre, yeah. And by the time you wake up, it's gone, isn't it? But so what Driven's going to be about is it's going to be a book to inspire people through early, I think probably when I was about 16, 17, and it was leaving school. It was that time. I probably had my first sort of example of panic attacks, and what am I going to do? Suddenly I'm out into the big wide world.
Yeah.
You know, where do we go from here? Do you go to college? Do you go to uni? What is it you do? And you can succeed on whatever journey you take, as long as you're willing to put the hours and the knowledge into it. So what I intend to do in Driven is to inspire and motivate other people that have come from a different background. You know, maybe they've lost their parents, or one or two, or they've gone through divorces, that sort of thing. I mean, my dad left my mum when I was 2, and I didn't really see him till I saw him around as such, but I didn't know him to speak to till I was about 12.
Yeah.
And it's just how it was for me. So the father figure was my granddad, and sadly he passed away when I was 16 doing my exams. So that sort of screwed a lot of my exam time up.
Yes.
And Driven will be a book that hopefully inspires other people to say, you know, you can do it. You can do anything that you want to achieve, but you've got to be prepared to work weekends. You've got to be prepared to give up a lot of things, sacrifice things to get to where you want to be. It's also going to have some tips of how you can grow your business, how you start your business. You can start a business with no money. And lots of people say, yeah, but you need to do this. But the answer is you save up, you save. And so if it's a cleaning business and you need some equipment, you don't have to take a loan. You just need to work day and night for 7 days, whatever, to have the money to buy the equipment to start the business. Yeah. So I don't suffer fools gladly, and I don't like excuses when youngsters say, yeah, but, and there's no buts. You know, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think one of the things is that as a society, certainly in the UK, we are we err on the side of caution. We're a bit negative in our outlook of life and what we can do. But actually, that's just conditioning. That's just how we've been programmed. We can do so much more. So I love your can-do attitude, the fact that it's, you know, if you want it, you go for it. And I think that's a brilliant message to pass on. So when do you think we might be seeing this book? Or because have you just started, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I want to rush. I want it to be right. And I want it to give the right, display of what needs to be done, and I think probably I'd like to hope that it's sort of ready by the end of this 3 or 4 months, and possibly, we don't know what's going on, do we? But I'd like to think it could be out there by Christmas.
Lovely.
If not, then I'd like to think this time next year.
Yeah.
But you've got to look at the logistics once it's wrote. Got to get it proofread, and you might be able to help me with where to go once it's done.
Yeah.
Because your books are fantastic, and I was going to ask you, are you planning to make another one soon?
I've got so many in my head, it's just knowing which one to focus on. So yes, but they're all just in my head at the moment. None of them are written. I could do a quick one, but I want to give it justice, if I'm honest. So yeah, I've watched this space. There are more to come, but it's finding the time really more than anything.
This is it. This is it. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you say, not so much right. I want it to be valuable. And of course, I put a lot of value into my first book. So it's how can I build on that? So maybe I don't. Maybe I do something completely different. And there are a couple of avenues there. So we'll see. But absolutely happy. I can put you in touch with a few people to help you with your book as well. So yeah, absolutely. Get that written because we need to understand. So how are you coping at this time? I know you've talked about you've been doing some one-to-ones with people, you're writing your book, you're doing the program. I mean, as a business, obviously there's no taxi driving going on at all or chauffeuring. How do you see that changing once this is all done and dusted and we're back out again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now at possibly getting a perspex sort of thing in the back to seal off the back of the car to the front. It might be an idea. It might be the way to go for at least the year, because I guess everything will come back in stages. People might be allowed to travel in a few months. We don't know, but I want to protect the client and I want to protect myself. So that's something I'm looking into, finding out the right people to make that happen as a possibility, so that I can get mobile again as soon as we've got the all clear. I mean, there's lots of taxis and private hires out there still working, but I didn't think it was right for the client or for myself, unless it's an emergency to get somewhere. And I haven't had any calls based on that. But I think the overall picture will be things will go two ways. I've wrote off this year drive-wise, you know. I think it will come back within the end of the year. But I'm focusing now pretty much on planning the future, in the sense of who are my target clients, where am I going to find them, what do they look like, and also the online bits and pieces of just reaching out. And I always say, Kim, I hope your viewers can pick up something on this. If you just send out loads of invites, be it on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, people have the option to look at it and say, oh no, I don't know him or her, and dismiss it. That's fine. But you will find people will connect. They know nothing about you. They don't know who you are. And that can lead to amazing things, because it grows your social media presence. And of course, if you're selling a product, I hate these people that the minute you connect, they email you a product or whatever. And you know, I don't look at it. A lot of people say, oh, you know, stuff them, I'm not going to connect with them. I don't dismiss it. I find it a bit cheeky. But if you don't ask, you don't get. So there's a thin line between that, because if you do nothing, you're not going to get nothing from it. But if you're a bit cheeky and do it within the first hour of connecting, then you're going to sort of think that the other person's going to think, oh, well, all they want to do is sell me something. So reaching out on social media and connecting is your platform right now. It's a free stage. I'm not sure how long Facebook will be able to continue, you know, without charging for something like this. And of course, there'd probably be someone else thinking of another idea. Zoom's been fantastic for meetings, working.
Yeah.
You know, I have a weekly networking meet on Zoom, which has been very productive. And, you know, you can put 100 people on Zoom, which is great, because you've all got ideas, you've all got products and solutions. So I'm just working on that, working on the book, dipping into that in between, and just trying to sort of like work out, because none of us know, work out what it might look like. This isn't going to be a quick fix, because even if we get through the survival stage and the virus starts to die down and no one's catching it as much or whatever, we've still got the economy impact, which we've not yet experienced, because everything's on pause. And, you know, there's going to be a massive impact on livelihoods, on cost. How the government are going to get the money back that they're spending will be obviously through tax. So you've got to try and plan the essentials in this. You know, what will people essentially need? What are they going to have? And that, of course, at the moment is food. So if you start to look at businesses that, you know, I'd like to start a fresh fruit and veg business delivering that.
Wow, how awesome.
It's been phenomenal watching all these people. And I think, well, that's how it was in the 80s. I remember around the corner from where I lived, there was a big fresh fruit and veg business delivering stuff. So you've got to look at what the next thing might be, but you've also got to look at your own business and think, what does it look like and where does it stand in the bigger picture? And if you've got over the first couple of years of business, as you know, those are the hardest. And you've got something because you've been here long enough to know. So whether that's a new product, whether that's a relaunch, whether it's back to bases, as we discussed back in February, you've now got enough options to say, do you know what? I'm not going to give in easy. It's been however many years it's been, and we're going to get through the other side of this and maybe even be better than it was before.
That's awesome. And I think, I know from, our conversation today, but in previous times as well, is that you're very much a doer. So, whatever happens, I can see that your business in some way or shape or form will thrive through the other side. You may struggle to start with, but it will pick back up. So that's brilliant. So one of the questions that I just need to ask you is, obviously you've had lots of people in the back of your car. And can you think of a funny situation that for you, not necessarily the client you were carrying, that you could share with us today? Because it's a serious job that you're doing, in as much as you're conscious of their health and safety, that they are cared for through the journey, they get to where they want to be, safely and on time. But have you got any funny stories you could share with us?
It's difficult, isn't it? There's lots of clients. How do I pick one? And
that's just about you. Maybe something you did or didn't do. So it's not your client, it's you. I'll let you think about that whilst I just chat and chunter on at you for a moment, because that was a surprise. That wasn't one of the questions, was it? But you did say throw questions at you. So.
Yeah. But you carry on. Let me have a think.
So one of the things that we talked about is the where you travel, because I know you're based in Andover, aren't you? So
yes.
Whereabouts do you? How far away do you travel?
We'll go anywhere in the UK, and even I've been in talks with people overseas. If it crops up and they need me to go and drive over there or something, we'll do that. We travel anywhere.
Yeah.
The furthest I've been, probably further than Manchester, Birmingham, would be Holt, which is right over in East Anglia, pretty much the end of that side.
Oh, really?
Holt. And I went to Holt, Norfolk, and there and back in the day was plenty far enough.
I tell you what, that's exhausting. I've driven to Norwich back there and back in one day.
Yeah.
Exhausted. It was a long journey, I have to say. I remember it well. And not least because apart from the main A11 going into Norwich, I know they've got a lovely ring road. Everything is just a single lane A road after that, isn't it? It's very few dual carriageways, and lots of roundabouts and junctions, bless them, because you're out.
Yeah.
Remember it only too well. So okay, so you're happy to go wherever, but you personally are based in Andover in Hampshire. So have you had any luck with that question, or shall I ask you another one?
I could give you loads of examples of people that have left phones and laptops on the back seat, and I've had to run down the terminal to reunite them with that. I could tell you a celebrity, if you like, Esther Ransom. She demanded. I had the back all set up nicely for her. There was the water, sweets, everything there, magazines. And she jumped straight into the front of the car and said, you don't mind if I sit in the front, do you? And can you tune the radio into Radio 4, and then I have a bit of Radio 2, and I'd like to put the seat back and have a sleep. You don't mind, do you? And it was all quite, oh, right, yeah, that's fine with me. But, I thought you'd like to relax in the back more, but there we go.
Well, and what an interesting take, isn't it? Because obviously, you've got it all planned, and then boom, client comes along and says she wants something else. What a down to earth lady!
Exactly that. She was a joy to drive. She come in for a charity do in Andover.
All right.
About 4 or 5 years ago now, I think it was. But when you see, you can always be never judge a book by the cover, as I was always told, because you can think how it's going to be, you can imagine it, And then, of course, it works out to be something completely different, which you would know from the sense of mindsets and things, just how important it is to try and always keep an open mind. Because, as you say, there's so many resources that you talk about when you mentor coach a client. The mind is a massive thing, and I was all up for, I've got to do this job perfect. It's going to be great. The back looks lovely, and then someone jumps in the front. So it's quite, always keep an open mind is my advice.
I think actually I've done that to taxi drivers before now. I've just got in the front.
Yeah.
Habit. But so as we come to the end of this, then I've come to the end of my questions. If there was something that you wanted to share with the audience today, one valuable tip, one resource, what would that be today, do you think?
Don't give up. There's been many times when I've wanted to stop. There's been many times when I've come close to lots of negative, depressive scenarios in my personal and business life. And if you stop now, if you give up with this situation going on, there's a lot of people that will actually think, you know what, it's time to give up. Then you're undoing everything that you've built up. And you've also probably been through, I don't think any of us have been through anything like this, but you've probably been through a lot of real bad things in your life at some point, and you come through the other side. And although, especially now, isn't it, there doesn't look like there's a light at the end of the tunnel now. And if there is, what does it look like? Because nobody knows. But if we stop and if we gave up, and I'll be honest with you, there's been some days already doing this when I'm like, blimey, but I try to get up and I move around, and I don't know if you've been watching my Facebooks, but I've been out cycling again. I spent 12 years in business on a bike. I was a postie for 12 years. And I've gone back to the basics of, if I just move around a little bit more, I'm not sat there dwelling on things. I'm not sat there overthinking things. And my advice is just keep pushing through. Nothing's easy in life. People aren't easy. The world's not easy. But if you stop and do nothing, you're not going to get nothing back. So just keep pushing forward is my advice. And don't let people, I was always a bit apprehensive of people, because I would always think, what are they looking at me and thinking about me? Do they think I'm this and that? And the bottom line is, it doesn't really matter, because we're all here. We've all got the same roll of the dice, and we've all got to make these decisions and carve out our future. Yeah. And you will get these haters. You will get people that, because they've got nothing better to do, or they've got a complex themselves. And especially like yourself, I mean, you come to my event, you did a fantastic presentation, and you just carried on. There was a couple of people talking, and it all got a bit towards it. But you carried on, you kept your head, you did a fantastic presentation. People come up to me and they said, that was a great presentation. I really liked the way that was done. And, I've been there myself. I thought, well, was I any good? And it doesn't matter, because as long as you're doing something, you're out there and you're pushing things forward.
Yeah, and I think I can agree with that. It's this idea of we stop ourselves, and it is us stopping us because of what people might say or do. Actually, half the time, if people say or do anything, it's about their own stuff, nothing to do with you, because you're not that important in their world.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But it does take a time, doesn't it, to get that mind. It's not something you can click your fingers and just do. I couldn't stand up 20 years ago, whatever, 15 years ago at school. I struggled when someone said, right, you stand up and read out a chapter of a book or whatever it was. And I did struggle. And it wasn't until I sort of hit the sort of just before I was 30, I started to find a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. And it does
yeah.
come. Well,
is the more you do something, the better it is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But you just it becomes a new normal. The body's like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it just takes it on. So the more you push through it, the better it can be. Absolutely. Well, you've been awesome today. Thank you so much, Christopher, for talking to me today and letting us into a few of your secrets of your success and what you're doing. And to your audience, thank you very much for listening in. Just before we go, how can people contact you?
So the website is all the W's, lmdycars.co.uk. Facebook, LinkedIn is Let Me Drive You or Christopher Jackson. And yeah, listen, thank you so much for inviting me on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope if people can take anything from our interview, that would be fantastic.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Take care. Cheerio, everyone.